Welcome guys, welcome to the channel Scoundrels, welcome back to the Scoundrels Den. If you'd like to be a Scoundrel and be a part of the Scoundrels Den, subscription button down below. In the process of, for like the 50th time, trying to redo my Discord so I actually use it. So please come and join the Discord and hopefully encourage me to actually talk. Yes, thanks to D2A for sponsoring the channel as well, reference link in the description below. So today we're going to be talking about the new patch in Wild Rift 2.0. This is a pretty big patch, but not for balance changes. Actually, interestingly enough, there have been very limited balance changes coming into the 2.0 patch, which I'll have my own thoughts on in just a minute. But Wild Rift 2.0 is going to release a whole bunch of new champions, a whole bunch of new skins, and is also going to make some major tweaks to the actual game. Okay, firstly, let's start off with the way it's put in the list. New champions: Corki. If you don't know who Corki is, I'm going to show you all of these champions, some of their in-game abilities towards the end of the video. I'll put them right at the end so you guys can go and check them out. But essentially, there are 5 new Yordle champions. If you don't know what a Yordle is, they're basically like a little hamster. That's a race of beings in League of Legends universe. The Yordles, they're little hamsters or guinea pigs. They just look like these little things. Corki is essentially a ranged... traditionally ranged marksman, but actually more commonly now played in the mid lane in League of Legends, and I envision that that will likely be similar in Wild Rift, though I would say he's very likely to be played in the bot lane as well. He's got a lot of mixed damage, so he's kind of like a hybrid damage champion, but he's a really cool champion. He's forever been meta in League of Legends. There's always been points at which Corki has been relevant, because he scales really well into the late game, and he's very safe as well. He's a really safe champion to play because of his second ability, Valkyrie. Kennen, the Tempest, the Heart of the Tempest. Kennen is essentially a lightning ninja. He's a very good teamfight champion, and he's a very good lane bully in the Baron lane. So I envision Kennen is likely to be played in the Baron lane. However, due to the high roam nature of and how important first dragon and second dragon team fights tend to be, especially as the higher elo you go, it might be more likely that we see Kennen in the mid lane because of how impactful his ultimate can be in those early fights. So actually, despite Kennen being traditionally a top laner, which is the equivalent of a Baron laner in Wild Rift, I envision Kennen to actually be more likely played mid if the matchups allow for it, because of how impactful his ultimate will be and how little he'll have to move from that lane to actually impact the more important fights in the early game. Tristana, the Yordle gunner. She is a marksman. She's I think she's one of the oldest marksmen to exist in League of Legends, and she scales really well as the game goes on. Her range increases, and because we actually gain levels relatively quickly, and because the levels are reduced overall in Wild Rift, Tristana might actually hit the spikes that she needs to be really good, better, like more quickly in Wild Rift. So I'm excited to see how Tristana shapes up in the meta. I actually envision that she's going to be pretty solid. She's the kind of AD carry that can carry team fights effectively versus the likes of Kai'Sa and Jhin because of the range that she gets throughout the game. So I imagine, and she's got a good all-in potential in lane, so she'll combo really well with the likes of Alistar. So I think Tristana is a potential contender for a high-tier AD carry. Lulu, the Fey Sorceress, really good support, good lane poke. Her ultimate is infinitely useful, and you guys are going to love it. It's a really good anti-assassin support. Lulu is a very good anti-assassin support. Her ultimate gives a whole bunch of health to her target and knocks away nearby enemies. So I think Lulu is going to be seeing a lot of play if our assassin meta, you know, the very heavy Zed, Evelynn, Akali meta type things, if they tend to continue, then I'm expecting Lulu to continue to be a very high tier pick. Plus, she's a big lane bully, so she's very good against the likes of Alistar, and she can out-trade and out-poke the likes of Janna as well. So I imagine Lulu's actually going to sit relatively high on the support tier list as well. And Teemo, everyone's least favourite champion. Teemo is abusive to melee matchups, especially in the Baron lane. Now, whether Teemo will be played mid or Baron lane is yet to be seen. I don't think he's going to be played in the marksman role, but he's traditionally always been a bit of a troll pick in League of Legends, but I have noticed that they have changed some of his abilities for Wild Rift. He now has a role, a little bit similar to Vayne's role. He now has a role in his kit, which might alleviate some of the issues that he has with his mobility in the game and keeping him safe in team fights. So I'm excited to see whether this turns Teemo into a really viable, potentially AD carry because of that roller addition, but, you know, a really viable pick in the meta. Either way, he's going to be toxic. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the game system changes now. You can see you've got some ping replies, so you can now let your teammates know that you've heard them with a ping. They're going to add Dragon and Baron respawn timers to the scoreboard, which is great for planning kind of your game around neutral objectives. You are now going to see that the enemy's scoreboard will not update until you have actually seen them on the map, either on a ward or through vision from one of your own champions on your team. You can now access an emote wheel by long pressing on your champion on the screen, which is great. I love that. You will no longer have your vision blocked by the system messages. So, for instance, like has slain the dragon, kill, or whatever. That will no longer block the view of your champion, which is great for team fights, clearly. And now you're going to get some extra detailed stats from the scoreboard. So you're going to get some extra detailed stats from the scoreboard, which is great, which includes things like how much resistance you've got and how much that actually reduces damage by, as well as converting your ability haste to actual cooldown reduction. Tower prioritization. Towers now prioritize targeting super minions over siege minions, which for me is really confusing because super minions won't spawn until you've killed every single tower, including the inhibitor tower in that lane. So this is either applying to the Nexus tower, the one, you know, the actual Nexus when it fires its missiles, or if you somehow manage to drag super minions to another tower. That, to my eyes, is the only way this actually has an impact. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like normal towers are not going to hit super minions on a regular basis because super minions don't spawn until you've killed every tower in that respective lane. Season 1 starts on the 8th of January 2021, which also means Season 0 ends, and you're going to get some rewards for Season 0 ending, which includes a glorious Tryndamere skin, which is cool. I've seen it on Yikez's Twitter. I'm going to show you a lot of this stuff at the end of the video. I will go to Yikez's Twitter and show you the video that he's put up. He will probably have, because he somehow, through data mining or whatever, has access to a lot of the actual in-game champions and skins. He will probably put that video up on his Twitter, sorry, on his YouTube, so you can go and check that out at some point, I'm sure, to see all of the new skins in action. But if I can get access to any of the champion footage, I will. We've added a whole bunch of stuff to League of Legends Wild Rift. There's going to be loads of events. So loads of events are coming. They're going to continue to improve the matchmaking experience. I know a lot of you have felt frustrated with it. And the leaderboard now updates every 10 to 15 minutes rather than every 24 hours. So you can see your progress of the top people on your server every 10 to 15 minutes. We've made a few improvements to chat, including some better UX changes and UI changes, etc. Cool. Those are all the gameplay changes. What are you most excited about? Are you most excited about the champions? Have you seen any major changes that you think that you're interested in? But before we go, we do have the balance changes to look at. There were some balance changes. They weren't included in the patch notes, but they were put out on Twitter, and we'll go through those now. Okay, here were the champion buffs for 2.0, or champion nerfs and buffs for 2.0. Very few, as you can see. So that does mean, luckily for me, until the Yordles get released, my tier list is likely going to remain relatively similar. And actually reading through these balance changes, I do completely believe that maybe apart from Zed, everything else is going to remain exactly the same. So Zed getting a champion nerf, the Razor Shuriken, his missile width, which means the hitbox of the missile, how sort of wide it is being reduced by 50 units, which, as you can see, is almost a third of its entire width is being reduced, which means Zed will no longer be able to hit his auto-cast shurikens with his shade or from his ultimate as effectively as he was before, making them easier to dodge. It's the same with the Blitzcrank Hook. It now has become slightly easier to dodge for you guys, and that means that he's going to be able to land damage less consistently. Master Yi, his damage to turrets from his third ability, Wuju style, is being reduced, because apparently he was taking turrets too quickly, and I imagine that's something that happened quite regularly in low elo once Master Yi got fed. Wukong's getting buffed so that his clone now mimics Wukong's golden staff, which is his first ability. It's a very minor buff, very unlikely to change Wukong massively. Honestly, the biggest change here, the only change that's likely to affect the tier list that I made yesterday is the Zed change, but I don't know how much is going to impact him yet. It is a pretty big nerf to the auto-cast ability on his Shuriken, though, because now you're more easily able to dodge it. The width being reduced is a pretty significant change. Red buff is being nerfed. The damage that it deals is being nerfed across the board. Especially its scaling, as you can see, reduced from 1.6 times champion level to 1 times champion level, and 3.2 times champion level to 1.5 times champion level, which is the evolved Crest of Cinders. So red buff being nerfed pretty significantly, and so red buff users, ones that really do value red buff massively, people like Graves, even Shyvana, Lee Sin in the jungle, they will feel that nerf, especially as the game progresses. And the Rift Herald, the damage that you deal to Rift Herald when the eye is open, which is the little purple thing that opens on its back, is now 15% max HP. And the eye now permanently closes at 20% HP rather than at 15% HP, which means that it's going to be harder to take. When you're taking Rift Herald, it will be harder for you to take, and it actually will be harder for you to kill ever so slightly when it's attacking turrets, but it will be harder for you to take, which means it's not going to be taken so quickly. It's a riskier objective to go for. You're going to have to plan around it that much more. But no major balance changes for 2.0. These are the only balance changes that they are putting in the game, which is pretty crazy in my opinion. Evelynn, I definitely think needed a nerf, but we're going to have Evelynn mid for a little while longer. It's good for me though, because the tier list still will be in action until we get the Yordles released. But as soon as the Yordles get released and we know how good they are, I will make a tier list for them, and we can add that in. Right, now at the end of the video, I'm going to try and get some footage of the in-game champions, and any kind of footage of the skins that I can get, I'll put in the video as well, and we'll go through those and we'll have a look at them together. Okay, so Yikez did publish some stuff already about some of the leaks that are coming. If you don't follow him on Twitter, YikezGG, follow me as well, at Excoundrel. You can see he's already published a picture of himself playing Teemo in the practice tool. I have no idea how he gets access to this, but it doesn't matter. I wish I could get access to this kind of stuff. I'll maybe try and figure it out in the future. But he also published a video of the Tryndamere skin, the glorious Tryndamere, that is coming as part of the ranked rewards for Season 0, and this is what you get for your Season 0 Gold status. So if you haven't hit Gold yet, go and hit Gold, because this skin looks cool as feck. It looks so good. It looks like a Final Fantasy character or like an anime character or something. Riot have done such a good job with the models. But yeah, would thoroughly recommend that you try and get Gold to make sure you get this Tryndamere skin. It's the only way that you're going to be able to get it, and it just looks hella cool in its model here. So yeah. Even though I don't play much Tryndamere, I might play Tryndamere in normals with this skin because it's just such a cool looking skin. Cool, let's go and have a look if we can get some champion footage and talk through some of the upcoming Yordle. Okay, gonna have a look at some of the champions now, and I found these videos on the internet and I tracked them down to what I think is a Chinese YouTube channel. So I'm gonna link that YouTube channel in the description below, but I found these on a website that had republished them somewhere without credit actually. But I'm gonna put that YouTube channel in the description below because he's put together some really good videos. I can't really understand what's going on in them, but he's put together some really good videos. But these clips I pulled from a website that I think had already reposted them somewhere. I've got clips for all of the champions except for Lulu, but what I'm going to do is I am going to reuse these and make a separate video talking about the new champions and kind of a bit more in depth about what they do. But what you're seeing here is Corki. Corki has mixed damage. He deals a percentage true damage with his basic attacks. He has a thing called Phosphorus Bomb, which was his Q ability, which you saw at the start. His second ability is Valkyrie, which is a short range dash, which leaves a trail of burning behind him. His third ability is Gatling Gun, which you can see here, which, if I remember from the PC version, reduces the enemy armor, and I believe magic resist as well. It actually just reduces their resistances. And his ultimate ability is this rocket launch here, and every so often he'll build up towards a big rocket and then fire a big rocket at the enemy. So that is something that the Corki has in store. And Corki will also transfer over his special ability from the PC, which is every so often throughout the game. I don't know the timers of the game throughout the game, but every so often throughout the game, a package will spawn at the base, which Corki can pick up. And once he picks that up, he'll gain increased movement speed, and he can also use his second ability to have an empowered version of it, which will travel a further distance, deal more damage, and knock enemies away. A really great tool for controlling objectives. I would assume that his first package would spawn around the same time the first Drake spawns, because it is going to be an incredibly important tool in taking first Drakes. But as you can see, it's much longer, it knocks enemies away, and deals significant damage if you're stood on the area of effect. Alright, Kennen. So Kennen is up next. Kennen's first ability is a Shuriken Toss. Obviously his basic attacks will just be normal range, as you can see here. You will every so often, as part of his, I believe his second ability, be able to land an empowered basic attack which will apply a stack to the enemy. His first ability is just that Shuriken Toss, and if it lands, it will deal damage and apply another stack to the enemy. And at 3 stacks, as you can see, the enemy will receive a short stun. And as you can see here, you can use that Shuriken ability to stack them up. As we said before, his second ability gives him the passive to have a empowered basic attack, but you can also reactivate that second ability once an enemy basically once an enemy already has a mark on them. You can reactivate the ability to deal electrical shock to them, which will give a mark on them as well. His third ability is a dash, which deals damage in an area around him and applies marks to an enemy if they are hit. And then his ultimate ability is his Electrical Storm ability, which applies marks to enemies every so often and deals massive damage in an area of effect. You can see how impactful this is going to be in teamfight situations. So Kennen, a very strong champion to have in a teamfight situation. He's going to be super good around neutral objective fights, and I think he's going to be a very impactful champion. Also, because of that ultimate, I imagine he's going to be more likely played in the mid lane rather than the Baron lane, even though I think his Baron lane matchups will be very good. I think it might be the fact that that ultimate will be so impactful that you see him more often played in mid lane. Okay, let's take a look at Tristana now, who I think is going to be a very, very strong addition to the AD carry roster. As you can see here, Tristana has these basic attacks. The basic attack range goes up, I believe, with every level that she gets. So that's going to increase the more and more levels that you get. You can see with the circle around her, she actually has a very long basic attack range, which is important because it allows her to scale nicely into the late game. Her first ability is a pure attack speed steroid, so you can see that her gun begins to glow. It basically just increases the speed with which she attacks, and once that drops off, your attack speed will start to decrease. This is the same thing that she has on the PC version, just increases her attack speed, and it's a really, really good way of essentially dealing a burst of damage in a teamfight situation. Her second ability is her rocket jump ability. It is something that allows you to close distances or get away from a team fight. So it's a little bit of a self-peel tool or an ability to engage. And it's a really, really good ability for a team fight, an AD carry to have. Any kind of self-peel ability is going to be great. Her third ability, she applies a bomb to an enemy champion. Any basic attacks will stack that bomb up, and at max stacks, it will explode, dealing damage in an area of effect. You can also use your second ability to explode the you can use your second ability to explode that bomb and deal a massive burst of damage to them. Ultimate ability is the same as the PC version. She just knocks the enemy away a significant distance, dealing damage to them as well. So that is Tristana. Do think she's going to be a pretty strong AD carry in the current meta. We don't really have many super long range late game AD carries apart from Jinx, but Tristana has that range built into her kit without the need to swap weapons. So I think this is going to make Tristana a viable option in the AD carry position. Alright, moving on to the final piece of footage that I have. I do not have footage for Lulu at this current time, but once I manage to find some, I will make a video on all of the champions, discussing what I think about them and kind of how they're going to be built. It's Teemo. Alright, so Teemo, his passive, he deals poison damage over time with his basic attacks. It's really annoying. One of the most annoying passives in League of Legends, kind of why people hate Teemo in general, but it is a strong passive that allows him to be a nuisance in lane. His first ability looks like it's going to be exactly the same as it is on the PC. He will blind the enemy, meaning they can't attack for a short period of time, and deal a burst of magic damage to them. His second ability seems to give him a roll and then a burst of movement speed. So he's going to get a little dash and a burst of movement speed, which is, I believe from the PC, his W ability is literally just a burst of movement speed. His E ability is going to be a stealth, which is actually his passive when you go into brushes, I believe, for a small amount of time. But he's going to have a stealth, which is going to allow him to move around for a short period of time and reposition. So this is going to really change the way that Teemo is played. There is a small cast time to going into the stealth, as you can see, but you can move around during that time and you will come out of stealth shortly afterwards. A little bit like Twitch realistically. So he's got a little bit like a Twitch passive, but his ultimate remains the same. He's going to place these really damn annoying mushrooms across the map. They'll act as small wards, and they'll also deal magic damage over time, as well as damage in an area. He can also bounce those mushrooms off each other. So yes, Teemo is exactly, maybe if not more annoying on Wild Rift as he is on the PC. Again, as I said, don't have any footage for Lulu right now, but once I do manage to get some, I'll make a separate video about these champions and their upcoming build paths that I expect to see in the next few days. I hope you enjoyed all of that, guys. I hope it's been useful to you, and if you enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe. Also, Yikez has already put out a video with all of the new champions and skins coming to Wild Rift, so go and check that out. He's basically covered all of them that will be coming up in the next few days, so yes, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Cool, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.